Okay, next question comes from Upasika Suññata. Can you explain briefly how is the understanding of suññata in Theravada Buddhism? Suññata means emptiness. Emptiness is a word that is, I'd like to say, thrown around a lot in Buddhism. And I really believe that's an appropriate way of putting it, because a lot of our understanding of suññata is quite superficial. We understand suññata to be an experience where you'll be sitting in meditation and suddenly everything goes blank, or it suddenly is very empty. You feel very peaceful, very calm. There's no suffering arising, and so on. And people say that therefore you've come to see emptiness, and that's not the case. That's not true at all. This feeling of emptiness, of nothingness, or vastness, or so on, is a very well documented Buddhist meditation experience. And it can actually be a hindrance to true development of insight, because for this very reason, it leads you to believe that you've become enlightened, that you've attained some sort of a special experience, and that therefore there's nothing left for you to do. Which, of course, isn't the case. It's a formed state. It has causes. It's based on the concentration that you gain in meditation. It comes about because of the concentration, and it lasts as long as the power of concentration is still there. So you can build it, you can develop it, but it doesn't lead you to a permanent and lasting peace and happiness. Because, of course, that can only be gained through realization, through understanding the objective reality in front of you. So I would say 90% of our experience of what we term to be nothingness is actually nothing of the sort, or to be emptiness is actually nothing of the sort. It's just a temporary state which is impermanent, which is unsatisfying, which is not under our control, and does not belong to the self. And actually these three characteristics are what we're really trying to gain in Buddhism. It's not any special state of bliss or quietude of mind or so on. We're trying to come to understand things as they are in terms of these three things. And this is where emptiness really plays a part, because impermanence, suffering, or what we call the unsatisfactory nature of all things, that nothing can satisfy you, and non-self, or the fact that nothing is under your control, nothing really is subject to your domination. These are the three ways of becoming free from suffering, of gaining real realization of the truth of reality. And the realization that comes from each of these three has a specific term. So the realization of enlightenment can come through one of three ways, and one is through impermanence, the other is through suffering, the third is through non-self. The gaining of realization through impermanence is called animitta magga, the path through seeing the signlessness nature of phenomena, that things change without warning. There is no seeing that everything comes and goes without any previous warning, without any sign. It can change in a heartbeat, and we see this in our lives. Our lives change very rapidly in many cases. You'll be living your life in a certain way, and suddenly everything changes. Suddenly you lose something in a heartbeat. In meditation, we see this acutely, that everything is changing, and things can change in a heartbeat. When we see this, this can be a cause for the mind to let go, for realization of the truth. The realization through suffering is to see that nothing is worth clinging to. It's called apanihita magga, the path through seeing or through non-desiring, or through seeing the non-desirability of phenomena. When you see that things are changing all the time, you start to see that they're unsatisfying. So some people see this aspect of the stress involved, with clinging, the stress involved with waiting, with expecting, with trying to chase after a certain mode of existence, and suffering thereby because it's impermanent, it's not sure, it's not stable. This is the second path to realization. The third path to realization is through non-self, is seeing the uncontrollability of things, and this is termed suññata magga, which is the path through emptiness. And so the real meaning of emptiness is not a feeling of everything is empty or there's nothing or so on, which is, it's a fine meditation state, but it's not realization of the truth. Emptiness is the realization that every experience is empty, and it's empty of self. It's empty of the being. It's not an entity in and of itself. It comes and it goes. It arises and it ceases. There's no solidity to it. Everything is ephemeral. Everything changes, and does so outside of the control of any creator, any self. So the mind is able to intervene, is able to alter the course, but it's not able to turn things off or to make a leap from one state of being to another, to say, I'm like this, and suddenly change to be like that. The mind is only able to affect things in terms of its judgment and in terms of its desires. When we want things to be a certain way, there's a certain power to that leads us in that direction. But as we can see in the meditation, things like pain, we can't just turn it off. Things like the rising and the falling of the abdomen, we can't force it to be smooth all the time. And in fact, the more we try to force it, we see the more we suffer. As with the pain, as with our thoughts, trying to control our minds, trying to control our emotions, the more we try to control things, we see the more suffering we have. Once you start to see things as coming and going on their own, rising when they want, ceasing when they want, the rising and falling of the abdomen, going of its own accord, not according to our wishes. This is the realization of suññata, that there really is no self involved. There is no control involved, that they are empty of any being. This is the third path. So this is where emptiness plays a part in the meditation practice. On a more theoretical level, emptiness can be used to describe all three paths, and in fact all aspects of reality, that all of reality is empty of four things. And this is the meaning of khandha, which means aggregate. So aggregate meaning reality is made up of different parts. There's the form aggregate, which is which is physical. There's the feeling aggregate, which is the part of reality that is the pain, happiness, and calm. There is the recognition aggregate, the part of reality that remembers things, recognizes things for being this and that. There is the thought part, where we not the thought, the judgment part, what we think of things, when we remember something, when we recognize something, how we react to it, what we think of it. And then there's the consciousness aggregate, which is the part of reality that knows, that is aware. Right now that you're aware of me speaking to you, the sound and the sight and so on. All of these five aggregates, the meaning of the word aggregate or khandha means kang sungyang taretiti khanto, means all of these aggregates are empty of desirability, empty of permanence, empty of self, and so on. They're empty of any, meaning every part of reality is empty of any reason to cling to it, or any benefit from clinging to it and saying, this is going to make me happy when it comes, and this is going to make, I'm going to be happy when this goes. So the dependency on things that are impermanent, unsatisfying, and uncontrollable. That, from my understanding, is how emptiness plays a part in the teachings of the Buddha. So thanks for the question.